Yo, what's up, guys? You got PokeaimMD here with a video that's a discussion about stall. I actually have my buddy NJNP, the person who you guys say I have locked in my basement making me teams for the road top 10. He can say what's up.
Yeah, I'm supposed to say help first and call 911 and proceed from there.
But he's a very, prominent builder and whatnot, and a friend of mine. And he actually approached me about this, and I thought the discussion itself would be pretty cool to have. So we're gonna be talking about stall, and more so in particular Dugtrio. We're gonna be focusing on Dugtrio as a whole and how it really helps stall. And then, well, I guess we could start off with, you want to talk about Dugtrio sets?
Well,
Or
yeah, I wanna thank your fans because they've been so nice to me and all, and they've enjoyed like a lot of my teams always coming to me in comments and such.
that's awesome. You guys should join his Discord, by the way. That's he always links it.
Really cool.
I love, I really love what NJNP is doing for competitive Pokemon. He does these things called town halls where there's discussions like weekly, more than weekly. I'm pretty sure it's a couple times, sometimes a couple times a week, right?
Yeah, it depends on who I can schedule.
Yeah, yeah. So he's doing that in his Discord. So he's probably gonna link that down below. I encourage you to check that out. It's really good if you want to get into Pokemon. Not only does the Discord help with team building and whatnot, but it's just discussion and it's good. It's definitely good. And I love what he's doing for competitive Pokemon. So I applaud that. But anyway,
Thanks.
today we're gonna be talking about stall. So we'll be talking about Dugtrio, but before I think we talk about Dugtrio as a whole, we want to start. Should we start with the post that Blender made?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right,
Sure.
so Blender made this post back in January 18th. I think it was like 2 days before he used stall in SBL, and he said, I want to make a post on stall in Sun and Moon OU as it's been sort of changed since ORAS OU. Back in ORAS OU, Sableye was banned to nerf stall, but in Sun and Moon OU, stall is a lot more powerful than it ever was in ORAS. The core of Toxapex, Skarmory, Chansey, and Clefable can basically take on almost everything, and then utilizes Dugtrio to get rid of everything that possesses even a small threat, such as Mind Play Tapu Lele, Choice Band Tyranitar, Kyurem, etc. Before people jump on Sableye, there is no way that it is the key broken part of stall. It does what it's always done, which is keep layers off, and if anything, I'd say it's worse than it was last generation, as it struggles to check stuff like Swords Dance, Continental Crush, plus Stealth Rock Landers, and Spikes Greninja. I think the biggest problem with stall currently is that it's up. It's a puts. Okay, Blender, what the hell are you saying there? That it puts a ridiculous strain on team building. Any good team needs to have good stall anti-measures, but in Sun and Moon you need ridiculous preparation to stand a chance. The council has plans to do something about stall, but I wanted to make this thread to hear what other people have to say on the topic. Now, this was obviously made early on in Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon had only been up for 2.5 months, not even 2.5 months, but it still stands, even when people adapted to Shed Shell, Tapu Lele, and whatnot. Stall is definitely a lot more powerful than it was last generation. And NJNP and I were actually just talking about this, how in last generation, Mega Sableye was the problem with stall, but now in this generation we have Toxapex, which walls everything. And what were you talking about Toxapex? You want to jump in at any point?
Yeah, I mean, Toxapex is able to set up toxic spikes on like a lot of mons. You can even set up toxic spikes on Landos.
Exactly.
With the E-Quake, and then just switch out, get the regenerator, and be a nuisance for the rest of the battle. So it's really hard to keep those hazards off the field. You can play as aggressive as you want. It's a lot of games where if you make one misplay, the game's over. It just is over. You have to try to predict your stall opponent, and if you mispredict your stall opponent, then generally speaking, you're in a really bad position.
Correct. Exactly. Like again, Toxapex, and obviously the introduction of the Tapus and whatnot. But Toxapex in particular, that mon stops Specs Keldeo cold. Something that stall actually used to be annoyed by if the opponent or if the player versus stall would get the Secret Sword versus the Hydro Pump play right, versus Unaware Clefairy and whatnot. So, but the biggest problem for stall is the fact that Dugtrio can literally get rid of every single stall breaker on its own. It can even help versus opposing stall, and we actually have some sets here. They're you can change up moves, but earlier on in the meta we saw Focus Sash Dugtrio, which was again getting that buff to base 100 attack really did help it. Dugtrio actually became a threat and on the offensive side, and Focus Sash Dugtrio was used to get rid of Choice Band Tyranitar, which could otherwise just click Crunch or Stone Edge versus stall and 2 KO every mon. Dugtrio just comes in and clicks Reversal, gets rid of that, obviously. Gets rid of Hoopa, gets rid of Kyurem Black. just to name a few Pokemon. And then rising in popularity as of late and as of the past, month or two, we have Groundium Z Screech Dugtrio, which not only can get rid of, the aforementioned threats with the Groundium Z Earthquake, but can also beat opposing Stall if they trap Chansey. You Screech it into Z Earthquake, it does 97%. Chansey can't softball Stall you because it's Screech, so Earthquake would knock it out after. And at the same time, this also gets rid of other prominent threats for Stall, like Calm Mind Magearna, or like Magearna, name a few. You can sub up versus Mawile.
I just want to sorry to butt in, but like this generation, I've hated the term Stall Breaker because I feel like you need like 2 or 3 things, 3 ways, and you have to have a game plan set out for a Stall to beat Stall. Like the Stall Breaker, the term used to mean like you had a mon that could
beat Stall itself.
Yeah, you gotta at least have like he's gonna get you 3 kills per game. Like there's no mon that exists that does that anymore. Like for example, like Tapu Bulu is a great Stall Breaker. But there's such things as like there's so many things that Stall can do. One, it can max defense Clefable. If you're Horn Leech SD, it's gonna beat you in the long run. If you aren't sub, then Dugtrio. If that's it, then Dugtrio is just gonna toxic you and then you're dead.
Correct.
And then they can even run lures on toxic picks such as like Sludge Wave to just lure you in if you actually want to risk the Scald and just take you out. So,
Exactly.
So much.
And it's not the fact that it's also just Dugtrio. It is Arena Trap as a whole. They did suspect test Dugtrio as a whole, and that did not end up going through. I think they actually approached that wrong. And I'm not here to say that I hate Stall. No, I don't care. I'll use Stall if I need to, and I've used it plenty of times. I've used Diglett Stall back during the Dugtrio suspect test just to mess around with it, and it's the exact same thing. It is Arena Trap that is the problem. But now with this Groundium Z, it's definitely more so leaning towards the more offensive Dugtrio. And you might be thinking, well, doesn't Tapu Fini with Misty Terrain and Taunt beat Stall? I'm gonna tell you right now how you beat Tapu Fini with Stall easily, because it's super cookie cutter. You lead Sableye, you Mega Evolve Protect, Stall 1 turn of Misty Terrain. Next turn you knock off. Stall next turn Misty Terrain, get rid of the leftovers on the Nature's Madness / Moonblast. Then you switch out to Toxapex, all right? On their Moonblast or Nature's Madness, doesn't matter. They taunt you. You go for Scald, you burn them, or eventually you trap them with Dugtrio. If you are Focus Sash, you Toxic them, and then you beat it. That's it. It was literally cookie cutter to beat that mon. Like in particular, if you have that argument, it was actually cookie cutter to beat it. I did that with Diglett several times.
Yeah, it comes to a situation where like it can be like after the terrain is stalled out, it comes to 50-50. If you taunt and you predict the toxic spikes, you're kind of clean. But if you mispredict and a Skull burns you, you're screwed.
Exactly. Yeah. If Skull burns you, or even if they have Focus Sash Dugtrio with Toxic and you don't have something like Bandit T-Tar where they don't need it, like Stall has outs. So, and this is something else I want to say. I feel Stall is designed not to lose. It's not necessarily designed. I don't want to say it's designed to win. But I feel like Stall is a team in itself that's designed not to lose. It's literally called that. It stalls you out of your Pokemon, your PP, your HP. It's designed not to lose. So a well-played Stall will not lose.
Yeah, in this generation, it won't lose. I built this team because I was trying to cover SPL Stall and the I Love Pink Pong CL Stall on one team. And I threw SD. No. I threw Starbreaker, Vortec, Manwhile. I had Spikes, Ash Greninja. I had Sub Replay Lando, and I had like Wish, Healing Wish, Jirachi, like things that would normally be a nuisance to Star, right?
Yes.
So I'm playing the game out, and like I'm pressuring him and all. But in the end, because of like Zapdos's pressure and Skarmory switching around, and then Dugtrio trapping my Manwhile and all that, I couldn't win in the end. Like I had, like technically speaking, I planned out perfectly, but in the long run, like you can prep for Star all you want. In the long run, if you're playing the right player, you're winning that game. Like I played that game again versus a player that's not so experienced with Star. I won that game because I knew what to do. But versus an experienced player, I'm never winning that matchup. Yep. Which is certainly something.
Yeah, and on your screen you'll actually see the SPL Star right here, which would be the Clefable, Chansey, Dugtrio, Skarm, Sableye, Toxapex. The standard. This is the original Star that everybody spammed in SPL. Though I never used Sucker Punch on Dugtrio, I always used Toxic. I just thought it was a lot better. Being able to Toxic Tapu Fini or Landorus, especially like SDZ move Landorus, because the way a Stall player would think, it's how you should think when you're playing Pokemon in general, but especially if they see something like Z moves being threats for it, you'll obviously see, okay, this mon maybe doesn't do anything in this game, like Clefable or whatnot, or maybe I'll go Clefable on the Z move, protect up, go Skarmory, and then like Landorus won't beat me, and this is after Toxicing it and whatnot. So
Yeah, the thing like people like another thing that people hate about stall is that you also have to prep for everything else. You have to prep for webs, and you even have to prep for rain now. That's become a really
Yeah,
big.
and this is from a tournament perspective, by the way.
Yeah, this things keep piling up, because when you're going into a tournament game, you're trying to prep for the most, I would say, prevalent styles.
Correct.
And then there's so many. I'm not gonna say broken, but so many annoying monster handle. You have Magirna, and you have so many Magirna sets you have to think about. Okay, and then you have lefties. Joey's video actually helping that make things like Iron Defense Magirna thing. How you have to actually think about that it's actually disgusting. Hopefully, something is done about that mob. But regardless, things pile up. Like for example, like people have gotten people have forgotten about SD Scissor. Like people just pretty much hope that their opponent is default Scissor.
Default, yeah. And that has to also do with the meta. The fact that Zapdos is literally Zapdos is one of the best Pokemon in the meta, period, right now, because it actually is an ability to actually be everything. And also, Tapu Lele making SD Scizor pretty much never a thing. And back before Metagross was banned, Scizor was literally the best switching. Defensive Scizor was literally the best switching. But yeah, that's again, he's right. Like in that case, there's so much you have to prep for, especially in a tournament. And we're actually going to talk about on the tournament side. I believe he has it right here in this paste bin we're looking at. But there have been.
I'll go to this particular game. I feel like this game should have been won by Stall, but the player disconnected. But anyway, let me link it. This is a great example of Stall just being Stall, I feel.
All right, let me get this on the screen that way you guys can see. And again, this is just a general discussion. Obviously, we do want to know your thoughts. And I think it's not fair to say, oh man, I don't want Stall, ban it because I hate playing it. I mean, it's good. Yeah, obviously, it's in some senses people might say it's broken, but that's not a reason. If you hate playing it, that's not a reason to.
That's not a reason to ban it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, you want to talk about this game?
Yeah, sure. So anyway, we're gonna go turn one. Chansey lead versus Lando. Lando U-turns out as the we don't know what T-Tar is right now, but he gets toxic. Yeah. Basically. And Lando comes back in and forces this out. He goes Skarmory as he predicts the rocks. Goes for default. The Chansey comes back in, which to be honest, I understand that play. He didn't want to risk his eject button because that T-Tar could be banded. He wanted to save for the T-Tar.
Correct.
He's going to assume. Anyway, Zapdos comes in. He doubles to Skarm. His opponent goes opposing Zapdos. Opponent predicts very nicely as he goes to Toxic. As you can see, his opponent is toxicing all of the things that would pressure Stall, and his opponent is forced to go for rocks because that's literally his only way to pressure at the current moment of time.
Correct.
So anyway, as the game proceeds, we're turn 11. He goes to he makes a risky play by soft bowling, but again, even a crit edge when you kill because Chansey is amazing like that.
Chansey has Swampert's bulk, so
yeah. So his opponent goes to rocks, knowing that he won't be able to get rid of rocks himself. So he said, might as well set up rocks himself. As his opponent goes for E-Quake, just a 50-50 play. You can't really get mad at him for going for E-Quake there. As now he decides that this will be a nuisance. So this is another aspect. Dugtrio and eject button. I feel like that really pushes it over the edge.
Correct. Again,
that's the worst thing.
I just want to say that this is an example of a stall that doesn't need Mega Sableye to function.
Yeah.
I feel, at least in this generation, if you want a good stall, a solid stall, because I've even seen stalls with Mew now, you need a Dugtrio on your team. You absolutely need a Dugtrio on your team. And right here, after he found earlier that this Magirna was Assault Vest because it went for Volt Switch, or that's not Specs damage. There's no way that's Specs damage on Alamola. I'm just going to assume it's Assault Vest Magirna, right? But after he found out this was Assault Vest Magirna, he could safely go Alamola, not die, get the eject button activate, stopping the Volt Switch, and then getting in Dugtrio and then knocking him out with the Z Earthquake, the Groundium Z Earthquake, Tectonic Rage. So that's just an example of how Dugtrio, what Dugtrio can do, obviously.
And the game, I'm sorry. And I'm just oh wait, what turn are you on?
I'm on 18, but you could just talk about it. I'll just have it playing there.
Okay, so I'm on turn 19. Yeah, I'm on turn 19 now. So he goes Alamola, he takes the pump like it's nothing. His opponent reveals all out pummeling, which is really cool. He's able to take out the kitty really nice, and so the Alamola really nicely. Yeah. So he defaults off the rocks because now he has nothing to worry about. Basically, he then roosts scouting to see what his opponent will do. His opponent clicks Steel Edge, goes to discharge, and he sacks this because he knows Dugtrio's going to come in revenge and remove the threat.
Exactly.
And so now he knows that his win con literally is Clefable, Chansey. Dugtrio isn't that needed, but it will be a nice fodder. And he has Skarmory, Chansey, and Clefable. That's the thing about stall. It's making sure that it removes all the things it needs to win with the said mons.
Exactly. Though that all-out pummeling was super cool because otherwise Alamola could literally toxic every mon and beat him all with Wish Protect. So that all-out pummeling was definitely cool. And in the end game, you actually see that. Ooh, misses the Hydro Bomb. In the end game, you actually see that this is Ricardo, right?
No, this is the person that teaches Ricardo. Person that Ricardo teaches iPro.
Oh, this is iPro. All right, so in the end, he actually ends up losing because he times out and. Yeah, he didn't submit his team. By the way, if you're playing in a tournament, there's zero excuse to not submit your team. Submit your team. I've seen too many people lose because of that. But yeah, he basically would have won in the end game with Chansey, Skarmory. But it was a good example of how Dugtrio took away Magearna, the mon that actually pressured this team, because Magearna would safely be able to Volt Switch always, chipping away at everything, and being able to get in mons like Tyranitar. That was CB Tyranitar, right?
Yeah,
that was Choice Band Tyranitar.
Yeah,
that was Choice Band Tyranitar, and then even like Keldeo and things like that, being able to get them in. So that's just an example of how Dugtrio obviously works, and how had he not DC'd, I'm pretty sure he just would have won. Look what he had left. He literally clicks Moonblast, Toxic on. If he goes Chansey and gets Toxic on anything, he wins the game with Clefable. So that's just an example. And do you want to talk about the amount of usage of stall in
sure. So like the bin that I currently have, like when I did this, I was like, I'm gonna just tell you guys, like I thought this recording was gonna be like around like Friday-ish. So a lot of games have happened since. A lot of stall-ish games have happened. I think like 5 more. Anyway, basically, 58 games by Friday were stall. So let's add, I guess, like
this is World Cup, by the way.
Yeah, this is World Cup, so let's have like 6 more. So like, let's say 64, 65 games thus far had Dugtrio / stall involved in them, right? And then stall currently in like World Cup at that point in time had a 60% win rate, which doesn't sound amazing, but when you add the fact that if those players had played immaculately, that rating could have potentially been 90%. Like, there's a lot of games where the opponent just played bad. For a game, let's see. I think I got a game for an example. Let me see if I can find it. Where the opponent's stall should have won. Let's see.
Basically, there have been 58 games played so far for World Cup. If you guys know, the World Cup of Pokemon goes on for 3 weeks, tons of different games. Dugtrio been using 25 of the games, so 43% of the World Cup games have featured Dugtrio. And again, the stall win matchup. And again, this is something you should be prepped for in tournaments, but it's super hard to prep for stall, rain, offense, sticky web, Aurora Veil, all this different things. And it just goes to show how prominent stall is in this generation.
Yeah, when you're going into a game, like you're just hoping to get a good matchup. To be honest, like this generation, it's been that way for
a while
since last generation. Yeah, so like a lot of teams lately have literally just forgotten what a Mega Heracross is because they're worried about other things. There's been a lot of teams weak to Mega Heracross lately, but Mega Heracross isn't like an amazing mod at the moment because like. Number one, it can't beat stall. Like stall can't beat it unless it crits everything.
Yeah.
Also the fact that Flying Z Lando is everywhere, so it doesn't want to face that every single game, you know. But yeah. Anyway, so I got this game I just linked you. It's Oblivion versus my friend too. They're both my friends. But anyway, this team was used,
my teammate.
This team was used in Joey's Lazo. I'm sure you all know it. But anyway, it was now. When Oblivion asked me to make this team, he told me do not prep for stall because Till never used for stall. So I'm like, oh, I can actually have creativity with this build. Great. And so then Till brings stall. I'm like, well, this game was fun. And so basically, he makes the right play by calm minding, and then he went straight Dugtrio. Now, Till should have gone Clawskyre. Like that was always the play. Claw was always the play, but Till decided to go. This is what I'm talking about, like stall not being played right. He sadly got his Chansey trapped very early. As you can see, the Chansey is going to screech, sub, so he gets scout for what the Chansey does because he loses nothing by it. Then he Tectonic Rages, and the Chansey's dead basically. So now Skarm comes in, he goes for spikes. Oblivion is able to trick it. As it goes to Toxic, he's able to defog off the hazards. Sableye comes back in. I'm not really sure what Orlando, doesn't really matter. But anyway, yeah, this gets burned. He goes for Calm Mind again, and now since he took away the shift over trick, he's able to go zone, full switch out.
That was super key, by the way. The fact that
Yeah,
Skarmory got weakened or gone super trick early on, as well as the fact that weakened. Because if you actually look at Oblivion's team, Dugtrio traps from Teal's team. Dugtrio traps two prominent members, both
yeah.
Magazone with Volt Switches and obviously the Magirna. But you can keep going, bro.
Yeah, so Till makes the really good play of just keep spiking, make sure he has to stay on the field. And then he protects with Sableye, and then I believe he protected again, which actually made sense because, it prevents the default if he is able to get it off, but he sadly doesn't. So yeah, Oblivion goes for Scald here. He doesn't get it the first time, he leaks the second time. He decides to go Magirna now, as Till makes a really nice play of knocking off, removing the leftovers. He goes Dugtrio. And then Till makes another misplay because this was Z grounding him Dugtrio. I'm not exactly sure why, but he didn't click it here. Because if he had clicked it here, the Magirna would have died. And technically speaking, Sableye, Quag, and Tang could have beat Oblivion's entire team.
Yes.
So, and so since he made that misplay, I'm pretty sure he did calcs, and he did not consider bold
Defensive. Yes.
yeah, Magirna. And so, it really backfired on him. So he killed it off, and then he sure didn't expect Pain Split either because he wants for Curse the next turn. And Oblivion is back at a very, very nice HP. And now he goes for Curse again. Oblivion goes to the Toxic, making sure the Quag cannot beat the Magirna. And basically the game ends with Magirna winning.
Exactly. Once that Toxic was there, that was literally game for Magirna. In fact, Quagsire could have won on its own with Tangrowth. Because they would have just stalled out, switched between Secret Swords and Hydro Pump. Obviously, just stall them out, and Keldeo would have been burnt. But this was an example of where Tail's my teammate, by the way. But this was an example of Dugtrio clicked the attack, like it would have just still been over, even with just these members. And how Black Oblivion also was able to eliminate opposing stall, but it still wouldn't have finished the game for him just because of opposing Dugtrio. Like basically, even
This game showcases two great. I feel like this is one of my favorite games because it showcases two great things. One, if stall is played properly, you can win, and this is an example of it being played poorly. And then there's the whole example of Dugtrio being able not only it helps versus stall. It was able to remove the Chansey very nicely for Oblivion. But no, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm basically just saying like. As he said, basically help versus stall. So like if Dugtrio was able to get rid of Magirna, even these Mons would have been able to do that just because of what Dugtrio did. So like Teal could have still won with just these three Pokemon, since it was Scarf Mag, Scarf Keldeo, non-Zealous Dugtrio, and which couldn't trap anything, by the way. Ghost type, physically defensive Quagsire, physically defensive Tangrowth. Like it wouldn't make a difference. Or I'm pretty sure it's Phys that Tangrowth. It's not AV. It could
There's been a lot of games, at least some I can think of, World Cup where like Dugtrio is just for like revenge mons that are like super low, and like they're like like 12%, but like the thing is, those are nice spotters, those are nice mons that could have been great late game, but Dugtrio just makes sure that does not happen and removes it completely out of the game. What the mod, it does what it has to do, and it does it perfectly. A lot of people there's been this discussion I had, if golf was allowed, what would you use? Like, especially when Mega Metagross was around.
If Gothitelle was around, yeah.
If you would use Dugtrio, Gothitelle, and then generally speaking, you would still use Dugtrio.
Yeah, because Dugtrio speed tier lets it track.
Yeah.
We're talking about Shadow Tag, obviously, guys. Gothitelle with Shadow Tag. If it was allowed. Another example is Ray Scarface, who actually went undefeated in SPL solely using stall every single game. Now, granted, there were a few games where his opponents did choke. But that also goes to show that if you don't play in the hands of the right player, it's really hard for you to win versus stall. You can still win, but your chances are obviously very low. And even if you know it's coming, like you can still lose to it. But
Ray was I can't say the sole reason, but one of the main reasons Dugtrio didn't get banned. Like the Dugtrio suspect was going fantastic, and then he made a post. I don't have the link with me because it still nerves me to this day. But he made the post, and it got a lot of traction. For some reason, a lot of people agree with him, and now we still have this issue. But basically, here's a game Ray just now played. It's not included because this happened after. And judging by his team, like it's basically Charizard Y stall. But he was like, at least I'm judging, and he basically was trying to make a stall to prove that Dugtrio is not needed. And you'll see in this game, like he really would have loved Dugtrio, because if you look at it, Dugtrio would have been able to move.
It would have been able to trap Heatran.
Yeah.
Yep. If it was Sash, it could have trapped. It could have trapped what's it called? Weavile. If it was Ground MZ, it could have screeched into Tectonic Rage and killed Clefable. And this was an example of Corey actually played the early game really well, and then towards the middle he just started choking. But then even after that he was able to win in the end game. And this is just an example of like a game where Dugtrio would have been so much better for the team. Like Trick turn 1 was amazing.
Yeah, like Heatran was such a big issue. Like even though it ended up dying, like it did what it had to do.
Yeah,
it
got rid of Toxapex
down. Yeah, and it wasted a lot of soft boils that helped Clefable like pressure in the end.
Yeah.
It certainly was something. But yeah, that's just an example of like Doug stall. What happens when you stall without Dugtrio? It doesn't. You can. I'm sure there's so many games you can showcase of you winning stall with Dugtrio, because there's a lot of bad plays you can find. But yeah, generally speaking, if you're going into a tour game, you're gonna want Dugtrio on your stall. It's just it's like, why not? There's Bengay, like he went through the entire like
OLT on the OST, literally I think 2-0 every single round except for one, and he was just stalling the entire time.
Basically, yeah.
Different variation of stall too, like Ash Greninja stall.
Bengay was talking to me, and he was like, "Dugtrio's broken, but like I'm using it because I'm going to use what I can abuse. Like it's just simple common sense, And he did it perfectly. Like he even used it to get into make it deep into Smog Tour.
Smog Tour, yeah. He actually made it to finals of that. He also made it to finals of OST, if I'm not mistaken, versus ABR. And then he switched it up. He switched it up from not using Dugtrio, and he ended up getting you ended up losing 2-0. That's not because it also just switched it up, but like there were some interesting plays versus the Togekiss that also threw him off. But it's just an example of like how far Dugtrio can take you. There was actually one team that he used that I really liked. It was I think it was Dugtrio, Scizor, Specs Greninja. He made like a more offensive variant of stall, and Dugtrio did so much for, even though it was Choice Scarf Dugtrio, then.
That team is really cool, because it actually has like 2 trappers. It had actually
Infestation Toxapex too, yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool. Let me think. Okay, so there was another, I feel like there was another game that was interesting. Because there's so many different variations of stall that have been popping up, especially in World Cup. Like some more of it. There was one with Tangrowth that TDK made. That was basically replacing a mon. I didn't really like it, but anyway. So there's another variation of stall that my buddy and your buddy as well, Anti. Chris Mano made.
Yep.
Now I'm not. It's a cool stall. I don't really like. I'm not really like a fan of grassy terrain with Sash Dugtrio, but to each their own. But yeah, so basically, he leads off with a Sableye, because you're always going to be leading off a Sableye when you're using stall.
Correct.
And if you're just coming in and you don't know much about this generation, the reason Sableye is running a Protect over Fake Out is because of Lele's terrain.
Yeah, you can't fake it out, so it ensures the Mega Evolution. It's also just good in general, because again, I told you about the
stalling stuff out.
And stalling out missing terrain. So yeah,
So I said you go for Ice Beam here, because he doesn't have Fairy Stab. You can tell by his team, and well, you can't really tell first off, but yeah, I know the team, and yeah, it doesn't have Fairy Stab. But basically, goes for Play Rough here. Mew is a big threat. Like I told him before the game, get ready for Mew. I feel like it's gonna screw you over, and it actually did. But anyway,
yeah, Ice Beam Will-O-Wisp Mew literally beats all of ICT's team, especially because it's not Battle Bond Greninja.
Yeah, like he goes for Gun Check. He was able to weaken everything. And then Sableye is walling a Greninja. Like it's making sure those spikes do not go up. And Ice-T makes a really nice prediction. Predicts him to switch because it's frozen. And he goes to spikes there. He's now trying to get the Mew frozen. It's not working out for him. He goes Chansey, and this is such an interesting play. So he went for spikes there because he felt like that was going to benefit him long term, and he knew that either he was going to go for spikes or he's going to allow his Chansey to heal. And Roses benefited from that and got a full Chansey. So now Roses just makes the fine play of sacking Sableye.
Literally
He
doesn't need it
goes.
anymore because the dude has double fairy, choice band
Mhm.
Zygarde, potentially Z move Landers, and maybe Specs Lottie. So like that was pretty much what he needed to do.
Yeah, Rosa started, he started playing weird after that, but regardless, he defaults here, gets Ice Beamed, he goes to the Chansey, Ice T goes out pummeling, recovers, here comes back in the mail while he sacks. Here's the thing, you can, the way the game, you just gotta see how the game's going, but like, again, like as I said like earlier, you just take out what you need to, and then you get your
Trap.
point with the rest of your team.
Yeah, yeah, you trap with Dugtrio. Like,
Mhm.
even though Zapdos, if it was max speed, which it probably was because it was Gigavolt Havoc, with HP Ice, it would have been still good because Zygarde runs Adamant and Zapdos runs Timid,
Yeah.
and things like that, and faster than Landorus. But yeah, you can see here how Dugtrio was able to trap Mawile. Though I'm not sure why Mawile didn't go for Sucker Punch. Did it not have
It
Sucker
was
Punch?
it was a 50-50 and ICT just lost.
I don't know. I don't know if it was a 50-50 because
No,
he was
I
so.
ran the calcs. We ran the calcs after the game, and the reason he didn't go for it is because Sucker Punch didn't kill the Mailwell from that range.
Oh,
And
the Mew?
no, it didn't kill the Mailwell. They didn't kill the Mailwell. The Sucker Punch from Dugtrio didn't kill it. So like, if
Oh,
we predicted the Sucker Punch there, it would have been still alive to
oh,
pressure
okay.
out.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so they just basically lost it. And so yeah, in the end, Mew just 6-0'd everything
Yeah,
with the help of Chansey.
Ice Beam Mew just wins, yeah, and he can sack Dugtrio. It already did its job, and then Mew pretty much beats. Mew's another mon that's being placed on stall a lot, or as of recently because it helps versus Landorus and Zygardes, all of them. But it was just an example of how Dugtrio was able to eliminate the biggest threat to Rose's team. And even though typically Choice Band Zygarde is a really big threat to stall because it actually 2 KOs every mon on the team, and Chansey would stealth rock up with some good rolls. Obviously, having Bulu and then fast Ice Beam Mew doesn't, or even bulky Ice Beam Mew, doesn't make it a threat. Like even here, you see that Latios stays in and tricks, but he didn't need Chansey anymore. Chansey doesn't beat Landers, Chansey doesn't beat Zygarde. So just an example of what Dugtrio is obviously able to do. And again, it's like, I don't think stall is broken in a sense, but I do think it's a lot better than it was in previous generations. Even though in the previous generation, or as stall, we even had variations of Shedinja stall. But I feel like the Dugtrio's obviously Arena Trap. Arena Trap's the problem. It's not Dugtrio as itself. If Dugtrio had Sandville, it'd still be a decent Pokemon, but you wouldn't see me running around with it in OU because I'm not getting a Mon for Mon literally when I'm sending it out. But just obviously the introduction of Z moves, the fact that it has Arena Trap, and the fact that it's literally able to get rid of whatever threatens your team. And it's not even on stall. You can run balance with Dugtrio. I think White Queen quoted recently, and White Queen is a very, very prominent stall player. One OST before, stalled the entire way through, and what White Queen ended up saying was that there is zero reason to run stall without Dugtrio. There is no reason to run stall without Dugtrio, even if it's not even focus edge Dugtrio. Like Dugtrio removes a Pokemon. And it's just so
Yeah, I have a
prominent.
post. Do you have a link to the post?
You have a link?
Yeah, I have a link to the post.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, it's in the yeah. Anyway, so yeah, he said in this post, I've only played Sun these past 2 weeks, and I've already concluded that Dugtrio is broken. I don't know. I died laughing when I read this. But anyway,
Yeah, White Queen's hilarious.
it's so easy to splash onto all types of teams and eliminate what it set out to do. Yeah, like the only thing you won't see Dugtrio on is hyper offense. That's something I have not seen it on because it just doesn't work on the hyper offense. But anyway, once Dugtrio accomplishes his job, it's not dead weight either. He can set up Star Rocks, use Memento to give user momentum. He can toxic Landos, etc. Stabilize the pest has always been, but with the introduction of ridiculous Tapus in their terrain, especially Feeny, stabilize nowhere near metagame defining as it once was in RS. Yeah, this is exactly right. Like I really have gotten unnerved by people calling Sableye the issue. Sableye is never
Definitely
going
not the issue. It does one thing for stall, and that's obviously keep off hazards, but it's nowhere near what it was in ORAS. It actually ended up getting banned towards the end of ORAS, if you guys didn't know. But it's definitely nowhere near that. The introduction of these Tapus all with their fairies, with their great abilities. The fact that Tapu Koko can do like 70% with Thunderbolt if it wants to, and can taunt stall break. But even then, you could run like a Scarf Dugtrio on your team and break that mon. But he was right how he talked about Fable's Mega Evolution Magearna is everywhere too, making Sableye a mere setup fodder. And then leave Sableye alone because Black Lives Matter. Anyway, ignoring that. He's so silly. He's right though, they do. But yeah, it basically, as a stall player himself, he acknowledges that Dugtrio is the problem. And again, during the Dugtrio suspect test, I found myself
that
not.
was my favorite in the game. That was my favorite Sun and Moon time to play Sun and Moon. I enjoyed it so much.
I don't know. People were
first
using.
time in a while I enjoyed laddering. I don't know why. It just,
I don't know. For me, I didn't. I think it was maybe it was Mega Metagross suspect that I didn't end up finishing, and that was only because people were using stall / baton pass. So, and the only times I ever ladder is when I record. Well, most of the time. So at least for suspect tests. So like that was just annoying for me. That I didn't end up doing that, but I think the main reason as well, people didn't like the idea of banning the Pokemon Dugtrio, which I think was the wrong approach from the council. What they should have done was banned Arena Trap or suspected Arena Trap as a whole. Because Arena Trap is the problem, and again, to prove that point, I laddered up with Diglett stall. I think I got Rex with Diglett. Maybe I don't know. I remember I didn't vote because the voting ended up happening in like the same day it was done. But
the council was deciding on like if they should include on the like the ballot ban Arena Trap, but it would have been too confusing, so they decided not to do it.
Yeah. So it would be something that would be but because it was so close anyway, it would have a resuspect test later on anyway. Similar to how we'll talk about Mega Gengar and all the things like that. But the problem is Arena Trap as a whole has definitely pushed Dugtrio, that with the introduction of Z moves and the fact that the biggest threats it can trap, and it has that higher base attack. As White Queen said, this Pokemon is not dead weight after it does its job. It forces you, and there's nothing wrong with prediction, there's nothing wrong with 50-50s and all that stuff, though I personally don't like having to play a 50-50 game. I'm like the example of the UCL, I loved having Dugtrio on my team because it forced my opponent, my boy A-Drive had like a Raikou, and it forced him to not bring it out or to double in when he brought it out because he obviously couldn't Volt Switch, and Dugtrio just stops you, it stops the momentum. And gives the user of it momentum. So
yeah, for sure. Like there is this. Okay, I just want to link this next post from World Cup. It was from user one true like icon, and he played the legend that is Bengay, right?
Okay.
And so he was prepping for Dugtrio, like he because Bengay, that's what Bengay uses. Like you kind of can't prep for it, you know, and you just try your best. So in this post, he's saying, lost to Bengay. For the record, I had knockoff Super Proud Thunderous, Smackdown, E-Plate, Lando, 3 attacks, Mega Gear. And as he says, Taunt is better versus Stall, but Tail versus everything else. Like, that's the position that Stall puts you in, man. It's like, unless you 100% know you're facing Stall, you're not going to be able to prep for it 100%. You're not going to be able to prep for 100%. Like, things like Togekiss are not that viable in the metagame. But
are great versus Stall.
Yeah, great, like amazing. Like Togekiss, it generally speaking, always beats Stall. Unless you're facing like Togekiss and you never flinch at somebody else like that. Yeah, you're generally speaking. Zapdos. Yeah, you're always gonna be being stalled with Togekiss. But yeah, in this game, he was like, I don't know if I'm just bad at building, but you know, I tried my hardest to break Stall, and he just wasn't able to get it done. I actually have that game replay. It was something like, yeah, it was something.
He lost because it was fast Zapdos, which is, you know, something that people are running now, though. It's necessary, especially on fatter builds, because you don't want to get blown away by SC Lander. You outspeed that. You don't want to get blown away by Zygarde. So yeah, we have the replay right here.
Sadly, he has a mon that is Mega Gear, so I think that mon's trash, but you know, whatever. So yeah, he leads off Magearna, which is, you know, he's just predicting the chance, and Bengay predicts that, you know. Bengay goes to Toxic here because rocks, he doesn't need rocks, you know, he needs that poison, basically. He goes Sableye because he loses nothing by it. He goes for knockoff? Okay, interesting. Anyway, so it goes for Dazzling Gleam here. He doubles, predicting the chance of a very nice play. He goes to Stealth Rock. Bengay defaults. He gigas. He goes to Gearna. Gleams. Goes back Lando. Lando gets back rocks. He's able to Toxic. And you have to remember, this is E-Plate, and he's Toxic in, so like, you would think he is in an amazing position, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it proceeds. This gets Dazzling Gleamed. The Lando was toxic now. Now the rocker is on a timer. And he tried to make a prediction. It didn't work out. And got hit in price. Again, there's the thing. You make one bad prediction for stall, it just pains you in the long run. Luckily, he gets a crit on Zapdos. I'm pretty sure it mattered. I'm not
It definitely mattered. Even if it was specs, I'm pretty sure that mattered. Like,
so, yeah, he soft pulls up the Chansey. Now he's in a position to try to pressure as much as possible. He tries to make a prediction, doesn't work out. Bengay is able to get the rocks very nicely. Bengay now goes Celesteela on the Thundurus. I can't explain that play because that was something.
that man was scouting for knockoff. He definitely scouted for knockoff.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, clean. And then like that's the thing. He thought this was going to be Chansey in the long run, but it doesn't. Like,
Yeah, Chansey ends up taking the knockoff, superpower and superpower, and I think his Chansey's just bulky enough to be able to take on the rest of the team, no matter what.
Yeah, so he sacks a Celesteela because Dugtrio is going to remove in the end. So now he's in a fantastic position where Sableye is generally speaking going to win this matchup. So again, that's what Dugtrio, like right here, turn 35. I hate it so much because I can't go to my Lando to pressure out the team because I'm worried about Dugtrio toxic.
Exactly. His last hope was actually Mega Gyarados with Dragon Dance, and he ended up getting toxic. And by the way, this is also another example how stall doesn't have to be the same. It doesn't have to have the best Pokemon. This guy had Celesteela and Subcom. He had Vinkun, but and Zapdos. But it's still an example of how the team was just able to pressure because of Dugtrio in itself.
He added the core, like I was just arguably one of the best cores, Sableye and Dugtrio,
Yep, amazing together.
And then you just proceed with your build from there. So anyway, this gets toxic. Then now he's in a really bad position, suckered. He goes to toxic. He then E-Quakes. He goes to sub because he just he's pretty much the game's over now.
Yep.
And yeah, the game proceeds. It's a wrap. He tried his best to purple stall, but in the end it just didn't work out because that's stall.
Yeah, he as you can see, he did have knockoff superpower Thundurus, and it still wasn't enough to do anything. And Dugtrio, he literally could sack Celesteela because it did nothing versus Specs Lottie, versus Thundurus, and then just go Dugtrio and revenge kill. Like Bengay was fine. And again, going back to White Queen's post, how Dugtrio is not dead weight, and I was able to toxic the last threat to Lycan's team. Obviously, if he missed that, he would be in a bad position. But even then, he would have to. It was taunt, right? It wasn't taunt. No, it wasn't taunt. Even then, he would have to dodge a Will-O-Wisp from Sableye and whatnot, dodge Scald Burns from Suicune and whatnot, though it would have been harder. But yeah, Dugtrio was able to do what it's supposed to do, trap them on, and even then help Bengay end up winning the game. And this is an example of a team that was prepped for stall, but he didn't want to... he couldn't overly make his team 100% just to beat stall because obviously he didn't want to lose other matchups.
Yeah, it had some very nice unconventional but stall breaker sets and didn't work out in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I just want to cover 2 more points and we can wrap this up because I know we're both busy. But yeah, the games before Friday when I made this list, the games where Dugtrio had an impact, where it trapped something, toxic something, etc. It went 16-0.
Yes. Yep.
100% win rate when Dugtrio was able to accomplish its duty, which is fucking insane. It's crazy what it was able to do. And then there was this game where I feel like in my opinion, this was my favorite game of World Cup. I'm usually not a fan of World Cup because I feel like the games are just not played well at times.
Yeah, I like watching DVP because typically the people playing it are
DVP is great,
seasoned players, and I'll watch some good games. I don't like.
Let me rephrase my statement. New gen, when there's a lot of new players.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of missed players and people just trying to obviously break out and show things. And again, I'm not saying stall is broken because again, for me, I don't care. I believe it's not always the team, it's the player. But if the player plays well, it is extremely difficult. If the player plays perfect, it's extremely difficult.
Like TDK, the tier leaders have a strong stance. We aren't going to keep a broken playstyle viable. Like a lot of people are like, you can ban Dugtrio, stall will be unviable. Okay. We're not going to keep them on and we're not like that's why we banned Baton Pass,
Yeah.
We're not gonna keep a playstyle that's uncompetitive around. But anyway, I'll link this game. It was Ricardo versus the last thing I want to cover. There's also a link of him giving narration. I'll maybe link that in the comments or description or something. He did a good job. But basically it's Bush Tush versus Ricardo here at the start of turn one.
You literally see team preview. Sableye walls half his team. Dugtrio traps Heatran and T-Tar, and it's not a problem. Like that's literally like you could see that team preview just by before even watching the game. Like I haven't even seen this game. You see Sableye Mega immediately, and he's smart to Will-O-Wisp because he gets to synchronize, so at least he can pressure Sableye, which is good
like,
for Greninja.
He has such a really he has a decent matchup. Like he has a Heatran, he has a Lando, he has a T-Tar and a Mew. Like he has a decent matchup just stalling from the jump. So yeah, this gets burned. He doubles the Lando, making aggressive play. It doesn't pan out as best as possible. So Ricardo goes to Chansey here, and we find out later in the game that he's a eject button, but he didn't want to risk this being Scarf because his opponent has a T-Tar, so he knows this can potentially be Scarf Heatran because considering the fact that T-Tar would generally cover
Exactly. Exactly.
Side.
By the way, turn 7, very, very important, or turn 6 rather, him revealing sub. This is something that people do. That's something that's ran. I actually ran this myself, I think in SPL. But sub, Magma Storm, Heatran, it's just a way of being able to trap him on, but also avoid Dugtrio. And in this case, you see him going for that sub. And the guy knows all he has to do is click Seismic Toss. Even if Chansey goes down eventually, Heatran's trapped. Like literally,
I love this set, but it definitely doesn't be stall. Like if you, especially like CL stall, like you can literally go from, like I know Heatran like traps you and all, but you'll be at enough HP where you can switch out, go Alamola, and get the eject button, Dugtrio traps, or you could even just pivot around with Chansey and Alamola, and this won't beat you no longer.
Exactly. Like right there, he definitely Bush didn't see like turn 12. You guys just saw Bush did not see the eject button coming, and he was smart to actually save Chansey because he could still recover up on Mew. Mew doesn't run Taunt this generation, doesn't have the moveset to be able to run that, or he can even recover up on Tangrowth if it wants to, and he couldn't sub up versus Toxapex because it would be able to break his. It would be able to break his sub with Scald. So Dugtrio was able to come in, eliminate Heatran, gone. There's one sub breaker.
Turn 14 makes the smart play of not risking a crit, and then it's getting, it's evolution and it's a wrap,
Exactly.
And so since Dugtrio was able to remove the steer resist, Clefable was in an amazing position right now.
Yep.
He wishes right here. Bush just makes a really aggressive play and really cool play of not expecting Sableye to come out and risking like a Z-move flying, and goes for Rocks here. Then he goes for SD. He's in a fantastic, like he's not a fantastic position, but he's in a really nice position right now. So he tries to play mind games with Rock
versus the counters, yeah,
and that doesn't work out at all. But he's got Rocks up now, and he's able to pressure the Toxapex very nicely. He goes T-Tar, and he edges here, and now the reason he edged is because on this original build, like this, Ricardo changed 2 important things. On this original build, this is Focus Sash. And along with the fact that the Toxapex is not ejected on the original build, but he changed up 2 things. And now Bush just pays the price of not knowing what this Dugtrio is and assuming that it was Sash, and now T-Tar just died, taken out by Zing.
Yeah, what he's expecting it to be was, he was obviously expecting it to be, he was expecting it to be Focus Sash Dugtrio, and which is why he got up Rocks there, thought he could win the game from there. Though, I think versus on the Clefable, he definitely could have afforded to Dragon Nets. If it was Adamant T-Tar, it could do a KO Clefable at the range it was at. With the sand. Like he could have DD'd. And that might have been game there, depending on Scald and whatnot. But yeah, it was just an example of how he didn't know what type of Dugtrio it was. And Tectonic Rage is able to knock out Mega T-Tar. Like Mega T-Tar's a mon that sets up on Scarf Garchomp's Earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
And how the Z move obviously just pushes to the edge.
So the Hydro Pump takes a lot to Toxapex, so he just sacks the Chansey because he's in an awful position. He recovers here, and he gets the Toxic Spike up. Like, this is what Toxapex is doing late game.
It's winning him the game. It's literally winning him the game.
Making sure that in the long run he's winning this game.
Yeah, because Greninja can't split into death with a double. I'm surprised he actually didn't get up a double layer. Because I know
he ends up getting later. Yeah, he ends up getting later, and then because he knows the Mew's gonna defog in the end,
Yeah.
So so he just goes to knock off here, recovers. He goes to Toxic Spike again. The Greninja gets the Barcos. He gets a crit. He made the right play by scouting. Luckily, he didn't die. But so Clefable and Greninja together, they're just working. To be honest, I don't know why Bush
personally, Bush, like if he wanted any chance of winning, he should have went for the flinch on Clef. Because if he got the flinch there, he won.
P1. Yeah, I was just not watching. I was like, why did he do that? But yeah,
Yeah, that was like
and
I don't know. Like he obviously didn't want to risk a moon blast or anything, but like
no smart players is gonna make that play. Yeah.
I don't know. At that point, I think if I'm in Bush's position, I think I lose. So I would have went for Dark Pulse because if I flinch Clefable, I could literally win the game. Like I would win the game right there. But now Clefable comes back and now he has to do Hydro Pumps and whatnot again.
Yeah, he's able to heal Bill, so now the Mew's already been synchronized, so he can't play those mind
Exactly.
games. And yeah, that's the game from there.
He scouts
So
what
that's-
he sees what movie goes for. He doubles around, sacks Dugtrio, which is smart because it already did its job. Dugtrio did its job and was able to give him momentum, give the regen back, and all he has to do is set up the T spike again or recover. Again, though, in this position, I think Bush 100% should have went for Dark Pulse. He should have went for the play. He should have risked his Greninja because he's gonna look at how he safely loses after that. Pretty much, he loses to the core the guys have. Even with the freeze, doesn't matter. Clef and whatnot, heal bell, it doesn't make a difference. He ends up losing in the long run. And the guy being locked in, like, you see how he went here when Clefable was at higher HP, and that was not the play there. Like, earlier, he could have potentially 2-hit KO'd if he got the flinch. He would have 2-hit KO'd if he got the flinch. And he went for it in the late game. So that's an example of, though, as well, how you should play. He should have went for the Dark Pulse. But that's also an example of how Bush had answers to stall. He had sub Magma Storm Heat Round, which isn't the best answer, obviously, especially because this was a eject button Toxapex. He had Mega Tyranitar, which, if it's adamant, can actually 2-hit KO most members outside of Chansey on stall. And he thought the Dugtrio was Focus Sash. He thought Dugtrio was Focus Sash, and ended up being Z Dugtrio. It was able to get rid of Tyranitar. And it's just the point we're trying to make in this video is Dugtrio too much, I think. Is it the point?
Yeah.
I think is Dugtrio too much for stall, or is it more so Arena Trap, or Dugtrio's role in stall? I knew something.
I feel like if I feel like Arena Trap Station, and I feel like the suspect really did show what I give us a preview at least of what stall would be, and it isn't completely unviable, but it is harder to use. It isn't as mindless.
You don't have a Pokemon that can just beat Magearna. You don't have a Pokemon that can beat Specs or Banded Hoopa. You don't have a Pokemon that can beat Banded Tyranitar like that. Yeah,
and it also, it really did help building. You had to prep for stall, of course, naturally, but it was a much easier job to do. Because like with Alamola's stall, like with the CL Lila Pink Monster, like when it just adapts. When Mawile and Mega Medicham were introduced, they put a eject button on Halo. They put through a Z move on Dugtrio, and they just took those quote unquote star breakers out, balance breakers, But yeah, eject button in Dugtrio
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You can literally go to your fat water on the breakers and then get Dugtrio in, and whether it be Z, whether it be sub, whether it be Focus Sash, whether it be Scarf, whether it be Banded, though on stall you'll see Sash or Z, or in Benge's case Scarf. You won't typically see Banded on stall at all.
There's been games where like I've literally been in a position where I had to outplay the eject button because I'm assuming it's like the eject button version, and then it won't be the eject button version, and I'm in an awful position.
Correct.
It's just how it is right now. Yeah, I feel like I've covered enough with this. My this whole text file will be in the description below if you want to read it.
Yeah. I'll have this paste bin down below. I didn't show it on screen, but I've been taking from it and what NJNP had. But I will have the paste bin down below if you guys want to see. And again, I think the issue here is Arena Trap, not Dugtrio. Though obviously Dugtrio being a ground type is also amazing for this case.
Yeah.
Not being able to block Volt Switch naturally. So in that case, it is Dugtrio, but Arena Trap is what pushes it over to the edge.
Jambat had a game versus Dexa, and the only mon that Dexa had to outspeed outside of rain was the Manectric, and the Manectric got taken out by the Scarf Dugtrio.
Exactly.
And let Charizard have a ball.
Exactly. That was in Jambat's game. Like, he has shiny Dugtrio. But you'll see how Dexa has... He obviously has Rain, but that doesn't mean you can stop his Zard Y. Like, he has Manectric, and you'll see... I'll actually go to it.
It was a really bad played game, but...
Yeah, Jambat played it well. But Dexa did some interesting plays, though. I don't know. I think towards the end game how he played versus Zard was.
Dexter just didn't know Sun Moon. Simple.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's an amazing ADV player. He's an
Yeah,
amazing ADV player.
he's really
I
good.
respect him so much in ADV. But and he's a player that can usually pick up a metagame right here. But you'll see Dugtrio come in turn 10, and this is literally Dex's way of revenge killing Charizard or threatening out Charizard. It's Scarf Dugtrio. It was able to revenge kill, and now he can just get in. Now, whenever he gets in Charizard just goes ham. It ends up clicking Flamethrower. All Jambat had to do was get Lele to a certain percentage. That way Flamethrower can knock it out. And this is just an example of how Dugtrio even works on balance, which is what Jambat is using. A play style that some people think is not even viable because of certain mons. But yeah, you'll just see how well Zard goes in just because of the fact that it. Because he had Dugtrio on the team. But yeah, again, so this video was about Dugtrio. I do want to know your thoughts on that Pokemon or Arena Trap as a whole. I know people don't like Stall, mainly because it's for them boring to play, which is, fine. But if you have some stuff, please obviously back it up with logic and whatnot, examples and whatnot. And hopefully we got our point across with this video. Whether Stall stays, obviously Stall will always be there, but whether Dugtrio stays or not, or Arena Trap is tested or not, is obviously up to the council. But they do take into account what the we're just watching Janvat win, by the way, but they do take into account what the community says. And personally, during the Dugtrio suspect test, I voiced my opinion. I don't think Dugtrio itself is a problem and should be banned. I think if they want to do something, talk about Arena Trap. Arena Trap as a whole. Is Arena Trap, quote unquote, broken? We already banned Shadow Tag for the reason of it being, again, quote unquote, uncompetitive. Whether I agree with that, I'm not saying. Okay, personally, I don't agree with it, but I love outplaying my opponents like that. But obviously, I think to this extent, it's Dugtrio. It's Arena Trap on Dugtrio, which is the problem. So I do want to know your thoughts. Again, thank you, NJNP, for coming here and talking with me for an hour on this 3-mold Pokemon.
I finally made out the basement, man.
I finally made it get back there and make my teams to road top 10. And less Magearna, because apparently people don't like me using the best Pokemon right now next to Greninja. Literally the best Pokemon next to Greninja. Now, guys, on that subject, I'm going to use Magearna as often as I get it. It's literally the best Pokemon to know you right now, next to Greninja. And yeah, so again, of course, if you guys all enjoyed this video or this discussion, feel free to leave a like. And we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.